This is the Jeff Santos Show.
For those of you who are on the West Coast, KCAA, and we want to hear from you, by the way, folks. You can always reach us when we're on the air 12 to 3. You got a great station manager there in Mark Westwood and company, and we look forward to doing a lot more in the coming months with our friends in San Bernardino. Maybe I'll even get out there for some live remotes. We'll see how the time goes by. In the meantime, we're working with Mark Taylor-Canfield. John, we got him ready to rock and roll? All right, fantastic. Our next guest comes to us from Seattle, WA. He is, of course, the Renaissance man of the Jeff Santos Show. He's a musician. He's an activist. Been involved in all of those protests for many years, going back to the 2000s and WTO and all that. But he's also the fantastic executive director of Democracy Watch News. It's time that we say hello to Mr. Mark Taylor-Canfield as he adjusts his sunglasses. He's out in the sun, I guess. I don't know. Mr. Mark, welcome. Happy Friday, sir.
Happy holidays to you. And I have a song goes come like this. On the fourth day of Christmas, my government gave to me uncorrupted leaders, good affordable health care, a free press for the people, and a great new strong democracy.
Hey, I hope we can get that, not too far from now.
Yes, I'm working on the full version of that song. It should be released before Christmas if I'm lucky. And also Punky back there. I don't know if you can see her in the background, but she said hi. She wants to wish she's back here behind me.
There she is. Yes. I see her now with her red hair. Hey, Punky. Happy holidays, Punky.
Yeah, we're going to do some holiday glee. We're going to go to a solstice party and stuff. But I wanted to say thank you to the guys from Reanimated Music, because they just hooked me up with some really nice, a really nice amp modeler and a foot pedal that just sounds great. It's kind of like that Jimi Hendrix wah-wah thing, which I love so much. By the way, we heard a lot of Seattle music last night.
Is that a new acoustic guitar behind you?
I've had that for a while.
Yes,
that was given to me by a really good friend who lived in the same building as me, and he moved, I believe, to Chicago. And just before he left, he said, Mark, he called me from the airport and said, Mark, you should look outside your front door. And I looked out outside my front door, and there's a Fender guitar, and it's a beautiful guitar. I used it for the Northwest Folklife featured showcase at the Mural Amphitheater this year. So it's been great. But I wanted to say thank you to Reanimated Music. So it's an employee-owned business, Jeff. The Trading Musician was my favorite business. It's been around for 35 years. All the great musicians in Seattle love that place. And it went out of business. The owner just wanted to retire and cash out. But the employees were able to get a really nice, like $180,000 business loan. And they now are running their own shop called Reanimated Music. So to Keegan and Jeff and the guys, thanks for setting up my guitar so well and making me sound so great. And definitely I'll be back to see you soon. And then also, I wanted to let you know, therapeutic wise, we stayed up really late last night celebrating a great victory. But
that's right. Way to go, Seahawks.
I took what they call a James Bond shower. I don't know if you know what that is, but you run icy cold water over you just so you can wake up. So I'm feeling good now, Jeff. I'm ready to take on the world with you and the other guests on your show and talk about those old-fashioned things like democracy, freedom of the press, freedom of speech.
Actually, since it's Friday and you're the last guest, I may actually want to spend more time on the Seahawks coming back and so forth. That being said, we got to get into a lot of different things. But I wanted to ask you this, to our music. You're the Renaissance man, so we can go back and forth with all these things. I was watching something last night, and they were showing clips of Bob Dylan, and I don't think we've ever actually talked about this. When he played the Newport Folk Festival, there was tremendous controversy. It came out in the Chalamet film a couple of years ago of going from, because I meant your guitar made me think of this, of the idea of playing, chords and then going to electric. How much of that is still an issue today? not so much in the folk festivals, but just overall as how people look at musicians, because you're in that world, and there's the purist, and there's always going to be people who look at things differently. And you come on a lot with electric guitars, but you have the other. I mean, do a lot of artists? I mean, I know. I mean, some of the bigger names you see, Robert Plant and all these folks that they play the acoustic guitar too. But what is that whole thing like? Is I mean, how much of that was to try to make the case in the movie, and of course they were booing an artist, a legend in that window of time, and Dylan. But where is that? I mean, what have you experienced? Both sides, if there is such a thing.
First of all, I forgot our famous intro.
There you go. You did. There you go. All right. Rocking in the free world with MTC. Better later than never.
I saw some great ZZ Top last night, and they have the most amazing guitar sounds. So I think I'm going to just use them, the Fandango album, as a reference for all my guitar sounds from them. But I can't do the beard thing though. It would take me so long to grow it like that. I do have a friend, an artist named Jeff Santos here, who's a great artist, painter and multimedia artist, and he has a huge long beard. It took him a while, but well, Jeff, I think about these kinds of things that you just mentioned because I am an eclectic artist. I've been influenced by Bob Dylan, of course. I used to go around with my harmonica holder made out of a coat hanger. You just twist it around the ends of your harmonica and put it around the back of your neck. It works really great. And I used to sing his songs, Masters of War and Blowing in the Wind and stuff like that. And
then, of course, you're really a Jimi Hendrix guy because, he's a Seattle guy and, maybe the best guitarist of all time. And, so you've been doing that too. So you have the polar, if you want to call them opposites.
Well, usually what happens is if you go to a bar, last night on Thursday Night Football, they were featuring the Crocodile Music Club, which is one of my favorite in Seattle, where you can just get right up to the stage and see your favorite artists. But in a place like that, they tend to book you as either a rock band or as a singer-songwriter. So I do both. So sometimes I perform solo with just me and a guitar, and then I can do all sorts of acoustic. I can do a complete acoustic set, and people really like it. I do get pretty funky and jazzy and rock oriented with my acoustic playing. I love, Tracy Chapman's way of playing acoustic, and of course, Jose Feliciano. Sure. I love that really rhythmic style. So I get people dancing even when I'm just playing acoustic guitar because I'm so rhythmic on it. But when I'm in a band, then normally in the local clubs here, I don't know what it's like at other places, normally very few times will you see a rock band in Seattle break down and start playing acoustic music. Now, I wouldn't mind doing that. And we've talked about that, like just me doing a set or one or two songs.
Is it because they feel that, it's too wimpy, or, I mean, the rock artists, they kind of come in tough guys with the long hair and, and all that stuff. Yeah. I mean, is that part of it too?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm more of a songwriter, so I was influenced by people like David Bowie, who wrote in all sorts of different styles, and that's what I do. Right. If you look at my bio for the Northwest Folk Life Festival, when I did that featured set, they say that I cover a diverse range of genres, including rockabilly, blues, soul, funk, jazz, pop, folk. I do all of that as a songwriter because they all influence how you think about music. And different songs require a different treatment. So as a songwriter, you get treated a little bit differently than as a member of a heavy metal band or something where they expect you to rock the crowd all night. And in a bar, it is typically loud. A lot of people may be drinking and you hear the clinking of glasses and people talking loud. So once you get down to an acoustic set, you kind of have to get the crowd really into it and calm them down. Like you said, you saw Tracy Chapman and you could hear the fire engine or the police car go by or something. That kind of atmosphere is hard to get in a rock club when everybody's been drinking and having a good time and they've been dancing. And you can do it in the larger arenas and theaters, like the Moore Theater here in Seattle is a great place. There's a comedian that was on Thursday Night Football last night who's performing there today. So in a larger venue, the WAMU Theater here, you can actually do that kind of thing. But in most rock clubs, they expect you to either be a singer-songwriter and do your acoustic stuff or be a rock band. And people who mix both, though, are called, what would I call them? They're crossover artists. Brandy Carlisle,
There you
our
go.
local rock folk diva. She was on the Country and Western Music Awards because her music crosses all of those genres. And so I don't know what to call her anymore. I mean, we do live in a very eclectic period, Jeff, where people's listening habits, at least when they're streaming, is very diverse. And, you know, they don't mind that I have an acoustic song and then a hard rock song on my streaming, you know, services available. It's just more like in a club, I usually get booked either as a singer-songwriter, like I think I'm going to be performing at the top of the Columbia Tower here, the tallest building in Seattle, on the 76th floor for the Seafair Summer Concert Series. And that's just going to be me and a guitar. And I really enjoy that because you're very intimate. You get to really show off your songs and your songwriting. And you have to be good. You have to be able to hold an audience, you know, with just you and your voice. So it's challenging, but really a beautiful thing. And I really appreciate that.
We're talking
Seattle's
with
a
our
great
good friend Mark Taylor-Canfield here on the Jeff Santos Show. Yes, Mark?
Well, it's just great to hear Thursday Night Football last night honoring Seattle. They had Richard Sherman, who's a regular, but they also had Marshawn Lynch, who they had to bleep like every 5 seconds because, wow, I had no idea he has such a foul mouth. Because when he was here, he wouldn't even talk to the press. But they showed a picture of the censors, during his speech. Or during his talk, and it was kind of a spoof. But they had this guy who was just pouring sweat. They said, "This is what our censors look like right now." So they're kind of making a joke about it. But they also went to the crocodile.
He is something. I mean, he made probably national prominence when, you know, he cussed in the face of Erin Andrews of Fox Sports at the time, and I think she's still with Fox.
Yeah.
But everybody got all upset. This black man, you know, attacking a white woman and blah 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 blah. But you know, I mean, he was basically. I don't know if it was Garoppolo. Maybe it was Colin Kaepernick, who was the quarterback of the Niners at the time. Said, "How dare you throw over to me, and I'm the star," and all this other stuff. And, you know, it is typical,
Well, he was kind of going after
machismo
Whitworth.
area.
Yeah, he was going after one of I think it was Whitworth, one of the commentators last night, too. They made a comment about the Seahawks and what they needed to win the game. And he just said, that's stupid. It's like, it's very simple. They need to run the ball. Okay. It's very simple. I think about football as a running back. To me, it's all about the running game. If you don't got the running game, it doesn't matter what's happening with your quarterback and your receivers. So he was just very, very straightforward. But they did have to bleep him so often that sometimes it was hard to tell what he was saying. But he's like the Sex Pistols of sports, the sports world. You know, they went on the BBC or whatever and started swearing, and that's what they made them famous. Right. So he's kind of a version of that.
But it was
Chelsea
great that Hotel in the 70s, at least. What Sid Vicious did is another story for another day, right?
They did a really great job. Yeah, they did a really great job of featuring Seattle though last night. They showed a lot of the city, the Space Needle,
good for Prime. We're talking about that with our guy at the NFL Network, Patrick Claybon, about it, and I've been very impressed. And good for them. Hey, let me ask you this.
I just want to say all of the bumper music were Seattle bands. So Alice in Chains, Nirvana, right. Jimi Hendrix, Ann Wilson and Hart, all of the great bands. You know, that was so nice to see that. So
now, did they put Pearl Jam in there?
Excuse me. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. The thing is that Eddie Vedder is from Chicago, and Soundgarden, great. Eddie Vedder's from Chicago and a big Cubs fan. But the whole Pearl Jam is part of that early 90s perspective of rock. And
most of those guys are still around here, Jeff. They are considered the elders of the music scene here, and they actually mentor a lot of new bands and help a lot of young bands like the Black Tones. I know Mike McCready was really supporting them, and Kim Thale from Soundgarden has been really supportive of local bands, and he'll show up on stage sometimes with a local band. But they're all out there, busy in the community doing good stuff. Eddie Vedder is always out doing something. It's really interesting to see that what's nice though is they don't live in LA where there's a lot of paparazzi. So Eddie Vedder can just walk into the grocery store here and people say, "Hey, Eddie," and they just go on with their shopping. So it's really nice for people who are pretty famous here because nobody bothers you. It's this unwritten rule that we're not about rock stars here. Everybody's equal. And, it doesn't matter how famous or rich you are, better than anybody else. I know that's very counter to culture in a lot of other cities, but that's
Yeah. No,
still
I believe me. The whole LA experience. I mean, it's oh my God, how much money you make, what kind of car you have. That's what I remember when I lived out there. But hey, I want
I'm
to I
not
want to take
saying,
you
I'm
to
just saying.
yeah,
I love
I want to
LA. I
take you.
love to visit LA. I lived in North Hollywood for a while, but I'm glad to be in Seattle. Yeah, I'm having a
Yeah,
good
well, there's
time here.
also different parts of LA. I mean, the Hollywood
It's
world
huge.
is one thing, and then if you go
Yeah.
down to where our friends are at KCAA, in the South Bay and in San Bernardino itself, and it's a whole different world. The OC, it's so it gets sort of thrown in LA's face, but it's only certain parts of Los Angeles that are a little bit too much to deal with sometimes. Um, but let me just say this. The thing about Seattle that I think is really interesting is that it's the proximity to British Columbia and Vancouver. The connection to Portland, that whole area is so progressive. And I know that Cascadia may never happen. As bringing. I mean, I guess Trump would like to usurp it from Canada, but he wouldn't like it because the politics are too progressive for him. So there goes that idea. But I mean, it is fascinating what has occurred. Particularly the three cities of Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver. Talk to me about that because there's great sports, there's great music. It has kind of a uniqueness that I think in a lot of ways the rest of the country doesn't really know much about.
Yeah, and there's a for me as a journalist, it's great because there's a real respect for freedom of the press here. Uh, I've actually suggested that we become a sanctuary city for journalists, where we can guarantee that journalists are not going to be arrested by police for covering a protest or whatever. But yeah, so the fact that the FCC is deleted independence from their website and is no longer an independent body, that Trump is using it to persecute his enemies in the press, who he calls the enemy of the people. The fact that he's suing the BBC and all that, although I can tell you this, the BBC is going to fight that one, and the law professors that I heard from said that it has very dubious legal grounds, so they're probably not going to get very far. But he's not
Yeah,
doing it to win the settlements. He's doing it for the publicity. But I think all
that's
of
all.
that up here in Seattle just seems like the Wizard of Oz or something, like some foreign world, some other planet. I mean, we don't understand how places like Florida exist. I mean, I love some of the people in Florida too, but at the same time, and we have Eastern Washington, which is definitely a Trump supporting area. But I think Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, I think we're already Cascadia. I mean, maybe not as an official organized group of states, but just in general, we do support a lot of the same causes. There's a lot of leftover ethics from the hippie generation, with organic food. A lot of people moved up here to start organic farms, and a lot of them, I think, came from the Haight Asbury down in San Francisco,
Hmm.
and all the way up to Vancouver. And it would great. I'm going to work on trying to get one of those sports guys to get on your show from the Vancouver Sun too, because they're very interesting. But I think we all share a similar ethic. And part of it is that I think I've learned this, that we all moved to the West Coast, especially to San Francisco, the Barbary Coast, to get away from, well, in some cases, the law. I mean, there were a lot of outlaws and a lot of
Sure.
prostitution, a lot of gambling, and all that's going on. But it bred an ethic culture of independence and personal freedom. And so a libertine, I wouldn't say libertarian, but a libertine sort of attitude. And I think that survives to this day, and it translates to our politics. I mean, you can
I
be a
agree. I want to
neoliberal.
get to something that you texted me on earlier, and that is
Yeah.
the issue of getting rid of the word independent, which to me is just disgusting. That you would do something like that. That's the FCC deleting it, from the
Yeah.
website. Talk to me a little bit about that, because that to me, it's just outrageous. It's totally draconian and obviously illegal. But I pride myself on being an independent host. And I know that you pride yourself on being an independent, journalist and as well as a musician. You don't fit into any of the categories that we just talked about earlier. rock or folk or whatever the case may be. And I think that when you do that, you're basically putting people in buckets. That is a sense of fascism 101. And so, the independent is important. I think actually he loses a lot of MAGA people who like to think of themselves as independent as well, even though a lot of them are brainwashed. But anybody who supports Trump really has to really think about that. But yeah, I think there's some issues there. Give me your thoughts.
It's par for the course for this administration, this regime, as I call them, because they've already deleted so many words from federal websites. And my friend Steve Gilbert has a gallery here in Seattle where there's an art exhibit happening currently where they highlight all of those words, including words like diversity, trans,
they hate that.
clean energy. So
Yep.
This is a big brother kind of authoritarian 1984 kind of situation where history is going down the memory hole, and suddenly there is no norm. This president has taken advantage of every opportunity to push his bullying power in a way that no other president has done. I think we've just been lucky, Jeff, that no other president in the past has tried to do this, because I think it was possible, given the weaknesses of our democracy, especially in regulating the executive branch. But it's just, we never had a president this crass, so
exactly.
the worst
in your face
never tried to go this far. Yeah, they may have been corrupt and all sorts of stuff, but they didn't try to become a dictator. So, and the fact that the FCC is no longer independent just means that the commission that I testified before about corporate media consolidation, and the same commission who claimed they didn't know anything about the results of their own commission studies about the negative effects of corporate media ownership consolidation. I have just so little faith now in the FCC. They aren't regulating what's happening online anymore, so they're becoming sort of irrelevant. Their main job seems to be, and has been for a long time, since Colin Powell's brother Michael was the chairman, their main job seems to be just to rubber stamp mergers by mega media
people. No, exactly. One thing before we go here, I got about 2 minutes, Mr. Mark. I want to get your quick thoughts on before we have to roll. And this is our last show of the year, by the way, for Fridays. We're going to be, last show is on Tuesday, and then we come back in January. But I want to ask you, because to me, and the Democrats have to realize this. What he has done so much is he's wiped out a lot of our culture, and we need to basically take that all back and do more. It's not just taking back the three, the elements of healthcare, ACA and Medicaid. You're going to go to single payer healthcare. We had Jim McGovern on yesterday, who's an advocate now for Medicare for all. There's these things we got to take, yes, replace, but we got to go even further and ensconce it in there. Because, this guy wants to put his name on Kennedy Center. He's doing that today. They get the construction crew out. This is crazy crap. And we got to change that. I want to get your thoughts, because to me, you get two senators there in both Murray and the other senator whose name escapes me, Cantwell. And they have to stand up here. They've been there too long. Maybe time for some new blood. But they got to stand up and say, you're not going to change our culture here in Seattle and Washington. Your quick thoughts.
Well, Patty Murray especially has been pretty vocal in directly challenging the president in a way that I was surprised by. We expected that from Pramila Jayapal, our member of Congress here from
She's
Seattle.
Fantastic.
But yeah, it's just mind-blowing, Jeff, that this one person has been able to influence so much of the culture and the media too. And I think that we will stand up here in Seattle and we will say that we are independent and we do not follow what's happening in the Washington Beltway or what's happening in parts of Florida or whatever. We are our own. We're our own people up here, and that's what Seattle's about. But I hope, I wish you the best holiday season ever, Jeff. It's always a pleasure doing your show. I love you guys, and thanks for having me on and having these conversations, because it's a highlight for my day. I really appreciate it. And we're all
right there, man.
I'm spreading the word out here. I want to let everybody know that the Jeff Santos Show is on the air, folks. So get on it. It's the best thing on the air. It's good stuff. Intelligence.
Thank you, my friend.
So stuff. Yes.
Appreciate you, and people like you make the show that much better. Have yourself a great weekend. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. We'll talk to you in 26. Want to thank John for producing this broadcast of our great team in Boca Raton, Florida, led by Freddie S. And, of course, Robin and Rocky and the A-Team. Thank you all. Have a great weekend, folks. Back on Monday. My name is Jeff Santos. I got to go.